We interrupt your program to issue a severe warning for an impending emergency making its way to your area. We urge you to be watchmen of the times and to be prepared with the essential knowledge and supplies for the wake of the final hour.
Welcome to the Final Hour podcast, coming to you from the original Living Word Christian Center out of Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yeah.
And I am with Lonaiah Farrell, John Gapp, our producer, Dee Schrader, and my name is Jim Hammond. And so we're so happy to have you today. I want to thank our listeners and subscribers. We were surrounding you with favor as with a shield in the name of Jesus Christ. And I just want to thank you so much. And remember, you can contact us on the Final Hour podcast website, which is the Final Hour. What is it?
www.thefinalhourpodcast.com.
Yes, and you can contact us. And sometimes it might take us a few days to get back to you, but we try to get back to everyone. We'll start out today with what has been. I'll just say this. Back on February 7th, on one of our early podcasts, that we were commenting on how the Department of Homeland Security put up on their website that made it very clear the proliferation of false or misleading narratives which sow discord or undermine public trust in the U.S. government or institutions, okay? And I said, we'll see a couple months what they do with that. I'm sure nothing will be done, and we'll know what that means in a couple of months. Mm-hmm. Well, in a couple months, we have got something the Obama administration is rolling out called the Disinformation Governance Board.
Technically, it's the Biden administration, but Obama.
More or less, it's the same thing.
It's the Obama regime.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Biden administration.
Well, yeah, because Tulsi Gabbard, former Democrat congresswoman from Hawaii, she was saying, so Obama gave a speech 6 days later before this governance board was released or started talking about. So it was almost like Obama launched that the Biden administration.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is dangerous here because we said back in February, either the first, second, or third podcast, the proliferation of false or misleading narratives which sow discord or undermine public trust in U.S. government institutions, or what they think is misinformation. And now we've got it, folks. We've got a Disinformation Governance Board. All right, this is real. Hitler had a ministry of truth.
Yep.
Stalin had a ministry of truth. Lonaiah, don't you have some information on the woman they put in charge of this board? Because on the way down to the podcast room, I was listening to a guy, but what was his name, Charlie Kirk?
Yeah, Charlie Kirk.
And talking about this woman who is running. She is the director of the Disinformation Governance Board. And her
name is Nina Jankowicz.
A non-elected official.
Right. But can I just make a comment about the Department of Homeland Security thing that you just read? Yeah. Because on it says that anybody who they decipher is giving mal, or disinformation is a terrorist threat. Right. So they're saying that this threat is coming from within the United States.
Which is, it's so creepy. It's so creepy that this could even be part of a free country, a country based on liberties and justice, that all of a sudden it's just by one person or one department that they can all of a sudden categorize without, these aren't elected officials. These aren't people who are being watched by the citizens. This is the government. This is a department saying that they're the final say in what is true and what isn't. It is disheartening to say the least. But
is.
it can't be. We can't let it go because it's not good.
No. And I don't know if you had a chance to listen to the Nina Jankowicz, but she has a misinformation band, and she rewrote this song like Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. She rewrote it to misinformation being out there and how they need to control people and what they're saying. And she's singing these songs like she's a Broadway star. That's like you would expect it from an 18-year-old TikTok star,
right? Not
from a 33-year-old Department of Homeland Security person who is able to arrest you and put you in jail for putting out mis or disinformation.
And that's according to their version of the truth. What they are saying, it can't be verified.
Right.
You can't be, we won't see how much you can fight this, but this doesn't make a free country. This is an assault on liberty.
Right.
And
Agreed.
let's see who they drag into jail first. Are they going to go to a big fish like Joe Rogan, Don Bongino, Charlie Kirk?
Right.
Are these guys out there?
They're definitely on their list.
Yeah. It's
For
just
sure.
It's concerning, and this is why you have to, number one, pray for your government.
Yeah.
Right. Because so that maybe they wouldn't be rolling out stuff that takes away your freedoms. And then number two, you need to vote, America.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
You really do need to vote. And so did you have something else you wanted to add about the Disinformation Governance Board?
And
Lonaiah?
do you know who?
Just bothers me. It just bothers me
it
even to
does.
say that.
And do you know who just created one of these also? Was Ukraine and Canada. Shocking, I know. But last month, Justin Trudeau kind of launched it and put this lady, I can't remember her name, in charge and kind of said what was going to happen. That was based off of the Trucker Freedom Convoy. That's basically where that came out of. But yeah, it's popping up all over. Let's just go back to disinformation in Ukraine, right? Because they started this board. They just came out saying that the Ghost of Kiev, which we all heard about during the beginning of the war, that this pilot had shot down 40 Russian pilots. Well, they just came out this week saying, hey, that wasn't true. Yeah. That was misinformation. We totally led you on with this pilot. So we have the Disinformation Board coming out saying that they gave disinformation for 200 or how many days? 3 months? Has it been 3 months?
What's that lady's name that's running this thing again?
Nina Jankowicz.
Yeah, she was a big supporter of the Steele dossier on Trump.
Which was...
We're talking about disinformation.
Yeah.
She was behind that, ate that up, tweeted things out on that. Which turned out to be what? Disinformation.
Right.
Proven
lies.
Proven disinformation. And so with that, anything else to say about the Ministry of Truth? What was that from the Harry Potter Ministry of Truth?
Yes.
It's the same thing.
And can I tell you, this is a funny fact about her. Guess what her favorite movie series is? Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
Like she does Harry Potter days.
Well, and if you want to look to some more fiction that reflects reality, the book 1984, you have a Ministry of Truth, which is all about, from the behind the shadows, behind the curtain, it is disinformation to control the populace, to tell them what to think. And if you disagree, you are a terrorist. You either get reprogrammed or done away with. Right.
Minimally, it's telling you what you can and can't say.
Right.
All right. Minimally.
Yep.
And so, moving to another, just kind of end times, Bible end of it here. John, you had something you wanted to talk about out of the book of Zachariah, and then we're going to go into the temple, the tribulation, the temple during the tribulation, because they're moving towards that here. This temple being built on the Temple Mount,
right? Well, it's interesting in Zechariah. There's actually a lot of prophecies in Zechariah, but I've been reading a couple places that there is some new research over the last few years that there is a fault line near Jerusalem, and it happens to be on right through the Mount of Olives. So in Zechariah 14, starting in verse 4, it says, "And in that day his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives. I believe that's Jesus, which faces Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall be split in two from east to west, making a large valley. Half the mountain shall move towards the north, and half of it toward the south. And it continues on, and I recommend you keep reading that. But it's interesting that right now, the research and scientists are proving that there's already a fault line there in the Mount of Olives. And so if there is an earthquake... Which there was just an earthquake in Israel this weekend. It was a 3.5 earthquake, right? And it hit northern Israel. Yep. So things are starting to roll around. So that fault line, that there is a tectonic plate that Israel kind of sits on, and that fault is right there facing east, or facing the east. What does it say? Yeah, it's on the east side of Jerusalem, and it faces towards Jerusalem, and it's got a fault line that runs from east to west, and basically it points directly to Jerusalem. And just on the timeline, that's after he defeats the armies of Armageddon coming right out of that. He comes down on the Mount of Olives, and boom, they're going to split. Are you guys seeing on the news where the Palestinians, there's clashes on the Temple Mount? Yeah. The Temple Mount, if you look at if you just Google a picture of Jerusalem, usually it's going to be a shot from one of those surrounding mountains. Right. You can see that big golden dome. Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so the big golden dome sits right on top of where the other two temples have been built. Right. So isn't that just like the devil? There's also a little black dome and that's called the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Okay. And so you got two domes up there, and that is a Temple Mount. And that's called the Dome of the Rock. All right. This is the location of the third temple of the Tribulation temple that is about to be built. All right. This very place where you see them fighting on the news, fighting on a daily basis. And I just think things are being really ramped up there spiritually. And Daniel 9:27, he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst, he shall cause the sacrifice of the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So this is the angel Gabriel talking to Daniel, and this is in regards to the Antichrist. He's confirming the Antichrist, a covenant with Israel. It says 1 week, which means 7 years. That's what we just read. Right. But that I don't have time to, break that out. But it means 7 years. Basically, what it's saying is in the middle of the week, 3.5 years into the tribulation, he makes the Jews stop sacrificing. All right. So what that says, and I think we've reported that there's already been sacrifices going on up there, right? So which could kind of it could coincide with information we're going to give you on the Ark of the Covenant, but it says there's going to be a temple with sacrifices because it says he's going to make them stop sacrificing. And what we just read is that the Antichrist does something that is reprehensible to God in the temple, in the tribulation. That's the word abomination, and make it desolate, all right? And it backs it up in the New Testament, 2 Thessalonians 2, 3, and 4, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall come, except there come a falling away, that the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, that's the Antichrist, who opposeth, exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God. All right, showing himself that he is God. That's interesting. So, I mean, if I understand correctly, Lucifer in heaven, he was wasn't he like a worshiper? He was right. So, yes. he wanted to be exalted. He wanted to be glorified.
He did.
And it's interesting that this is a second chapter, another trying to be an imposter and say, I want to take the throne. I want to be the one that's exalted. That this is another type and shadow of what we know what happened before the earth was going.
Yeah, and before our civilization anyways, and this is called what we just read. It is the abomination of desolation that I'm talking about here. We're talking about a rebuilt temple on the Temple Mount in Israel, in Jerusalem, at the wall, where you see that Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque. The Antichrist, 3.5 years into the tribulation, walks into the temple and desolates it by proclaiming himself God. He's going to kill the 2 witnesses, and we're going to talk about that. 3.5 years into the tribulation, he will stop the sacrifices. And with that, we go to Revelation 11:1. There was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood saying, Rise and measure the temple of God and the altar and them that worship therein. There's going to be a rebuilt temple sometime probably early in the first 3.5 years of the tribulation. All right? Because look what we just read in the Revelation 11:2.
Yeah.
But the court, which is without the temple, leave out. Measure it not, for that is still going to be given to the Gentiles.
Yeah.
Interesting. In the holy city, they shall tread underfoot 42 months or 3.5 years. And so we have in Revelation 11:1 and 2, the temple will be rebuilt, okay? If not before the tribulation, probably right at the beginning, then beginning immediately after the rapture, I believe, probably as part of this great peace process that this Antichrist is able to pull off in the Middle East, okay? Because the Antichrist does. He makes peace. And the first, right away, when he gets in power. I remember a few years ago, we were taken to a place on a tour, and Lonaiah was there also. We had some interns with us, and we visited this place called the Temple Institute. All right? The main reason the Temple Institute exists is to see the temple rebuilt. This is why they exist in Israel. And to have animal sacrifices reinstituted, right?
Interesting.
Those people are all Jews.
Yeah.
And the people that are part of the Temple Institute. So they have the actual menorah that's going to go in the temple on display in Jerusalem. It's covered in 200 pounds of gold.
It's amazing.
It's plated with 200 pounds of gold. This menorah that is on display in Jerusalem is worth about $3 million upwards. It's made under the exact specifications. You see the menorah in the time of Moses when they made that one. And so the Temple Institute has been making all the instruments for service in the temple that they had in the Old Testament under the same Old Testament specifications for many years. They have the priestly garments. They have the ephod with the stones.
Interesting.
They've been preparing this for many years.
Wow.
Even when they build the temple, they already have the cornerstone of the temple ready to be placed. We're talking about the temple in the tribulation where the Antichrist commits the abomination of desolation.
Yeah.
And so the priest from the Cohen family, that's going back into the bloodline of the priest in the Old Testament.
Yeah. The
When
Levites.
they have been training to operate and minister in this temple that is not yet built. They train in the Jordan Valley. They've been there for 25 years.
Wow.
So we're talking about rebuilding this third temple. In the end, there will be 4 temples because Jesus, being that the Antichrist desolated it, will rebuild it again. There've already been 2 torn down, one by the Babylonians, one by the Romans. And they've always been in the same spot where you see the Dome of the Rock. You know, this is the Temple Mount. And this is where, you guys see on TV now, they're starting to show a little bit of Israel because the Palestinians are causing chaos on the Temple Mount. And these Jews in the Temple Institute have been ready to go for a long time. Wow. You can see all this on templeinstitute.org. This stuff has been going on a long time. We just read Revelation 11:2, that the outer court of this next temple will be given to the Gentiles. Why? What does that mean? So that indicates, I wonder if that Al-Aqsa Mosque, the smaller black one, will still be standing, but the big gold dome one will be taken out, because the temple is going to be rebuilt in this spot, because part of this, the Gentiles will be involved in this outer court. All right.
Yeah.
So this is all signs of the time. And we could very well see this temple construction start before the rapture.
Right.
Okay. So Revelation 11:2, it says the outer courts have been given unto the Gentiles to tread underfoot for 42 months. That means 3.5 years. So in other words, that's why Dirk doesn't like me looking at the camera, but I'm trying to look at all you out there. So in other words, that's why.
You can look at the camera. I know. It's fine.
He turned it around.
He did turn around.
But he doesn't realize I can't even see it without my glasses, right?
Your glasses are right here, Jim, if you want to see yourself.
Thanks. So in other words, that's why I think they leave the smaller Al-Aqsa Mosque up there. All right. Somehow they're going to make a deal, right? Where the Gentiles or the Muslims are still going to have part ownership of this thing in the tribulation, at least for the first 3.5 years. You say, well, how are you going to tear down the Dome of the Rock? If you Google Jerusalem, you can see in most pictures sitting up there around the top a big golden dome, along with the Black Mosque, the Al-Aqsa Mosque. This is the second most holy place in the world for the Muslims, behind Mecca. This is the area, and this is where all the temples, the Jewish temples, have been built. This is the area where you see all the fighting going on, just to make it clear. But you say, how are they going to tear this thing down without starting World War III? Well, let me read Revelation 11:3. And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy, and 1,260 days clothed in sackcloth. Verse 4, 11:4. These are 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks standing before God of the earth. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceeds out of their mouths and devours their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. That these have power to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy. Wow. And have power over waters to turn them to blood. Well, that means they're going to do it. Okay. And to smite the earth with plagues. Wow. That's why some people think this is Moses, because these are all his miracles. But it's not Moses, I don't believe, as we'll get to. Verse 7, and when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast, they're part of what gets people saved. Right? Honestly.
Yes.
All right. The beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, shall overcome them and kill them. So the Antichrist is going to kill them in the end. After 3.5 years, right around that time, their dead bodies shall lie in the street of Jerusalem. It will be on iPhones, right? It will be across the world, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. Basically, these 2 witnesses are what is going to keep the tribulation, the temple, building of the temple, or the temple itself, protected for those 3.5 years, because essentially they are indestructible. These 2 witnesses are indestructible. And this is where they're going to be hanging out. Most scholars believe these 2 witnesses are Enoch and Elijah with a J, because they never died.
And I did hear a Rabbi, Jason, I know we talked about him before, but he was explaining the 2 witnesses, and that when they die, there's going to be like a celebration, obviously, because these people have been protected for 3.5 years. And at their death, people are going to be giving gifts to their friends. Like, we did it. We finally killed these people. So it's like a whole big, huge celebration.
Oh, man.
I mean, but just think, whatever you do to try to kill them, that's how you die yourself. I mean, it's crazy.
Why can't we have that?
Is that Matrix? Is that what he did?
Not really.
When a bullet would come at him, when he push it away to somebody else?
I mean, sometimes. He had that ability,
But his mind, that was my mind. Okay. Go ahead.
It says if anyone tries to kill these 2 witnesses, they call either fire from heaven, or what I read is it comes out of their mouths, and they kill them in this manner. So it doesn't matter how many angry Muslims were to attack the Temple Mount, all right, and the new temple or the building of the temple,
Right.
these two witnesses cannot be harmed. And you can see in the order of these scriptures that they're hanging out around the temple.
Right.
So they're going to protect the temple builders. They're going to protect the animal sacrifices, because can you imagine what the world is going to do when the Jews start sacrificing animals on the Temple Mount and it becomes public? You're going to have PETA terrorists.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
We already do. But.
Yes. Right. And think about all these animal rights groups and what they're going to do. They're going to freak. And with the two witnesses there, no one's going to be able to do anything. All right. They're going to protect the building of the temple itself. And we did read in the end, the Antichrist kills these two witnesses. And, upon his invasion of Israel and, Armageddon, 2/3 of the Jews die. The women, most women are raped. He walks into that temple, proclaims himself God. And that's what we're calling the abomination of desolation in the tribulation.
Can I connect what you just said and what we talked about, the Mount of Olives and the earthquake?
Yes.
So I was reading this in Zachariah, and then I looked in on Google Maps, and Mount of Olives is directly east of the Temple Mount.
Okay,
like it's right there, and there is a gate that was prophesied that the Messiah will return through. It's the Golden Gate, I believe is what it's called. And there was an Ottoman, what was his name? One second.
Ottoman Turk.
Yes, Ottoman Sultan Suleiman. He sealed that gate, and so that the Messiah couldn't come back through that gate. Interesting that that earthquake, that fault line is in that area, and is that the way that gate is going to be opened, and is the Messiah going to come through that gate and up to them?
Well, he
the
is,
Temple
if the Bible
Mount,
says
right? That's right. But it's interesting. So it's not just an earthquake on the Mount of Olives, but if that earthquake is also part of that gate coming down and opening up.
And maybe the earthquake destroys the actual temple that the Antichrist.
Absolutely.
Because it says it creates a big valley.
Right.
Maybe the earthquake itself destroys that temple that the Antichrist desolates.
Yes.
Right. Interesting, though, that somebody sealed the gate.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's going to stop somebody.
Because some
from
stones
coming.
is going to
Leave
stop
it.
the Messiah.
Exactly.
Leave it to the Ottoman Turks. Okay, according to Revelation 11, in those first 3.5 years, it's going to be a shared property, though. We read that. Probably from the peace treaty that the Antichrist is going to be able to make in the Middle East. It's he makes peace right away. Yeah. The other thing is the temple cannot be rebuilt unless they have something called an unblemished red heifer. That is a red in color cow.
So cute. I love cows.
So, and you can see that the Temple Institute in a video, they have a red cow.
Really?
Yes. But the problem is the cow has too many black hairs.
Oh.
Just a few. It just has a few. And so they're looking at this cow to make sure that the black hairs don't change to red. But when they find a pure red cow, all right, you can count on that only on the temple being built and Jesus has returned.
But can I say the detail of even looking at a cow to find a red, like a not red
there's
hair?
There's one black hair.
I have a golden retriever and she's red. So the fact that I would find a black or any other color hair on her, I mean, I'm just saying the detail. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's insane.
It cannot have more than 2 hairs on its body that are not red. And if you're wondering about the red heifer, you can find that in Scripture in Numbers 19, 1-4. They have to have the red heifer to cleanse, according to Levitical law. If you read those verses that I gave you a number, they have to have the ashes of the red heifer in order to purify. It's the consensus of the Sanhedrin, the current Sanhedrin in Jerusalem. That's a council of rabbis at the highest level, that they cannot cleanse the coming temple or the Temple Mount without the ashes of a red heifer like they used in Numbers. That was Numbers 19. Many scholars believe that the sacrifices cannot be, now this is out there, okay, cannot be restarted up and worship resumed without the Ark of the Covenant.
Which is obviously sealed in some government building from the CIA, since we saw it in Raiders of the Lost
that's
Ark.
where we saw it. Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was in.
That was obviously, reality.
For those of you that didn't get that, that was a joke. This isn't my opinion, but I'm just trying to give you some opinions from people out there that know a lot more than me. That the Ark of the Covenant needs to be found.
Right.
This is the first time I've heard this, but it's a pretty prevalent opinion. The Temple Institutes, they have a statement. All right, this is their statement. Tradition records that when King Solomon built the first temple in Jerusalem, through divine inspiration given to King Solomon, he knew the first temple would be destroyed. All right. Solomon, the wisest man that's ever lived, saw a vast construction of labyrinths and tunnels under the first temple built. All right. So I would say it would be, by the way, way underground.
Yeah.
Okay. You're talking about, the Jews worship at a wall.
Right.
That's basically right next to that Dome of the Rock, right? This is the most contested religious place in the world. Right. It is, if you could see into the spirit, there's more angels and demons over the Dome of the Rock, in that area than anywhere else in the world. The Temple Institute, there's a vast network of these mazes and chambers that were designed underground of the original temple.
There's a bunch of documentaries right now where you can actually watch a lot of people going into those chambers. Obviously not the ones with.
Oh no, we did when we were there.
Oh, did you?
But Lonaiah,
we went into some like that.
They took us down probably 40 feet underground.
Yeah,
I'll share some pictures.
And they, like, we're in the dark, but they've got it lit up, and they would be like, and this is the tour, one of the tours every tour we're on, they take you here, and they say, oh, this is the actual street Jesus walked on.
Interesting.
He walked on this street, but you have to understand that's way underground,
right?
Because that was 2,000 years ago. Well, the first temple, if you go underneath the first temple,
right?
I mean, that's way underground.
Interesting.
But they know there's a vast network of these mazes and chambers, and all these underground systems were built so that the Ark of the Covenant and the sacred vessels of the temple could be hidden in case they were in danger of an occurring invasion. And the Midrashic traditional teaching teaches that King Josiah of Israel, who lived about a half a century before the destruction of the first temple of Israel by the Babylonians, instructed the Levites, those were the rabbinical priests, to hide the ark in those underground chambers with the original menorah and various other temple vessels. The Temple Institute says that this location is recorded in their sources today, and they know exactly where this location is. So this is the Temple Institute saying they know exactly where the Ark of the Covenant is. There are several priests in Israel that say that they are eyewitnesses, have actually seen these labyrinths and tunnels far underground of the original temple that were built by Solomon. And don't shoot the messenger, and none of this would surprise me. There's two priests that say they've actually seen the Ark of the Covenant. So many scholars believe the Ark of the Covenant. Others believe it's somewhere in Ethiopia.
Yeah, I've heard
but now I'm starting to question that.
Right.
Because
it might be a red herring to cover for the red heifer. That could be.
The Tribulation Temple will be the site of the Abomination of Desolation. So if we look at the activity on the Temple Mount right now, there is a war up there every day. If we look at the preparations that are taking place, and all this means is that everything the Bible says will take place, will happen. And so this is just more that's going on because we had you could probably find the article where Lonaiah had that on an earlier podcast where we actually reported they are doing secret animal sacrifices on the temple. Nobody believes that I said that, or nobody believes me. I told Billy Brim that. She said, I don't believe you.
We have articles.
Yeah, Lonaiah has the articles. So,
we're not conspiracy theorists. We have articles that back up everything.
Right. No, a whole stack of them, because I read them all yesterday. All articles.
But it's interesting, like the Temple Mount, right? Everyone's just kind of looking at it with all these people clashing. But I was telling Jim yesterday when we were listening to this, like growing up, my mom made us do the Ephesians prayer, right? We do not wrestle against flesh and blood. And I was like, really? Though this is so spiritual, and everyone just sees these groups attacking each other. But if you look at the end, like you guys were saying, it's about the devil trying to take the place back for himself, and God. In the end, obviously, we know what happens, right? But it's spiritual.
No, that fighting. This is all you had Passover and Ramadan, coinciding at the same time. Plus that prophet. There was a Muslim prophet that predicted the destruction of Israel by July 22nd. And you can see what's going on with Hamas, with the Palestinians. You've pushing this narrative because Israel, what are they going to do? It's chaos at the Temple Mount. And they had to stop worship for a few days. And I think they're ramping everything up. Wanting Israel to make a major mistake, to turn the world against it. You've got the Iranians on the northern border with all types of weapons. So, and this is a time not to be afraid.
No.
This is a time to look up, be looking for the rapture. This is a time where we're technically supposed to dominate. You should take your seat of authority in the heavenlies today. You have a heavenly ministry. A guy wrote in saying, there were demons that were stopping. Daniel was praying these prayers, and there's demons stopping this prayer, and God had to send a war angel down to take care of the demon, in order for the prayers to get to him, to answer him. I have to say, that where you're seated through what Jesus did in the death, burial, and resurrection is you have a heavenly ministry and the right hand of God. You should check in from that heavenly ministry. That doesn't go on anymore. Demons cannot stop your prayers. You have God in you. Okay, you are a temple of the living God. And so I'm just saying, and you have been given a heavenly ministry. At the right hand of God. And I hear many people from Billy Brim, Chip Brim, check in from your heavenly ministry every day. I say I operate, think, pray, sleep, dream, drive, bind the devil, communicate, decide, react. Everything I do is out of my heavenly ministry today. And I always do that before I take my authority. We want to thank you guys so much I thank you for our listeners and our subscribers. And I lift you up in prayer every day. You are in my prayers. I make mention of you in our prayers every day. Thank you for tuning in to the Final Hour podcast. God bless you.